Well, hey everybody, no filter here, and as promised, Rumbles and I are going to do a little equipment video, just sort of a recap for anybody who was more interested on the equipment side of things, of what we took and some of our weights and some of our choices, and feedback on what we did. So I think the best way for me to start this is I'm just going to grab my pack and we'll unload it so you get a sense of where things go and also the equipment that I took on the pack. So first off, one of the techniques that I used early on and did the whole way through the trip is I did carry a fanny pack. And what that did is it gave me easy access for my snacks, bug net, hand sanitizer, bug spray, some things like that. And I would keep my utility knife in here, maybe my headphones and things like that. So this was a part of my weight package that I included in my weight. As long as we're talking weight, my warm weather weight, the base weight is right about 15 pounds. That might be a little deceiving because that's basically with almost no bug repellent in my bug thing. My hand sanitizer is almost empty, etc. That's no fuel, none of my vitamins, stuff, but it does include the basic first aid kit. So the pack, earlier video you all might have seen, I have an REI Flash 55. I took this on the whole AT. It suited me really well. It kept me from carrying too much stuff, but allowed me to pretty much carry everything that I needed. So we'll just go from the outside in. On the outside, I have my, these are my Kmart Croc sort of things. They worked out pretty well. I had some other ones that I started out with, and then I lost one of those, and I had these at home, so I switched to those. Carried them on the outside most of the time. If I was kind of at the end of my leg and I had a lot of space in the pack because there wasn't much food, then what I might do is stick them inside my pack just to make it easier for my rain fly to go on the outside. Always kept in my outer mesh pocket toilet paper and wet wipes. That's my pack cover. It's actually a Z-Pack, worked out really nice, but I will say that no matter what, your pack still gets wet, and with the Z-Pack on there, it did not have a weep hole in the bottom section, and therefore sometimes here at the bottom I'd actually get a puddle of water inside the rain pack, and I just kept reaching behind me and trying to drain it as I went. Here's a butt pad I used. This was a piece that I cut off of a gossamer pad that I had. And then my spades inside here, plus the, it's kind of like a little tiny piece of tarp that I cut out for the vestibule of my tent. And then I also have a little dry cloth that I use. I can use this little mini towel, pack towel, dries out real quickly. Could use it to wipe down the inside of my tent when I had condensation, or to dry myself off in certain situations. Also on the outside of the pack, I kept handy, inside here is my first aid kit. First aid kit, let's go ahead and take a look at it in personal items. So I'd have ibuprofen, etc., Band-Aids. I actually had a penicillin prescription I had with me just in case I got sick. That would be something it could help me with. And then repair kit, gear ties, patches for my inflatable air mattress, sewing kit, and things like that. So not a whole lot, pretty small. Also, in my first aid kit, Benadryl cream for itching. And I can't tell you how great that was. Also on the outside of my pack, I have an extra 1 liter smart water bottle. And let me just delve into my water system then for a second. What I did is I had, for easy access, I had a 700 milliliter water bottle snapped on the outside of my pack. This is a little clip attachment thing I found online. It was like 3 for $10 or something. It lasted the whole way. Never had to replace it. And I used the Sawyer system. And with the Sawyer system, a lot of you are familiar with those. They come with bags. And I went through, I don't know how many bags that kept busting on me when I would squeeze them. So I used the Sawyer, but then also went with the CNOC, and David used the CNOC system. He had a 2-liter CNOC bag. I had a 3-liter because, to be honest, when I went to buy them, they didn't have any 2-liters, so I got this. It's a little heavier, but it worked out great when we had to sometimes bring our own water in because there was no water. We're going to be camping, so we needed water for our dinner, and we needed water for breakfast the next morning. And I would fill this thing up, and I could just put the Sawyer on there and hang it from a tree, and it would filter all on itself. And then I didn't have to do the squeezing. So I got pretty lazy there towards the end, and I constantly would work that system. I'd let this filter all by itself while it was hanging, then replenish my other bottles. It was a time saver, and you get tired of squeezing the bags anyhow. So that's the water system. That's what's on the outside, other than of course, my do-rag, which I use all the time. And in here, I would put my phone, or often put my glasses in here, because I generally would hike without my glasses. All right, in the brain of my pack, this is where I had one of those safety or emergency blankets. Used it once, able to get it folded up like that. I keep my electronics in a plastic bag, keep it dry. That was my battery, headlamp, etc. I had my Montbell rain top, zip pits. Zip pits are great. This was also essential in keeping me warm when it was really windy. So not only for when it rained, but just as importantly and more often for when things were a little bit cooler. I had my rain kilt Z-Packs, great, loved it. Earlier on the trip, I had the Montbell zip-off pants and convertible pants. They could either be shorts or pants, and they were fantastic at helping keep me warm in the colder temperatures. But I'd had them for years. They took a beating, so I ended up pitching them even before we got to Katahdin because they had worn themselves out. But all that stuff would go up in here for easy access, and this is a rain shield pocket, and things will stay dry in there, so that worked out really nicely, especially with my concerns for electronics. So we get into my pack, and this is pretty much how I usually pack it when I'm hiking. I always want to be able to get to my food first. And what I've done is I have these Nylaflume pack liners that go inside the pack. And I can stuff stuff in these, twist them up, fold them over, and then it keeps those things inside the pack dry. First off is my food bag. I can't remember if this was garage grown gear or what, but it worked out well. Used it the entire trip, no problems. Inside it, stove. I used a pocket rocket to go with So I had a 600 milliliter cup that I used to cook in, and I would drink from it at times too. Aftermarket aluminum lid that I found on the internet. I can't remember exactly where, but it was kind of a cottage industry dude who made those. Excellent. Fuel squeezes in there rather nicely, and pocket rocket. That I always put paper towel in the top to keep the rattling down. And then it gave me my paper towel to use as needed. Also in my food bag, I keep my personal toiletries and stuff. Leuko tape, butt paste, more Leuko tape, and I did use deodorant occasionally, so I carried that with me. Foot powder, toothbrush, toothpaste, toothpicks, and I did carry a small amount of camp soap, biodegradable camp soap. And this stuff, I used it some to clean up. I used it occasionally to shower. We got to places that did not have soap. And that worked out really well. Didn't take up too much space. But I kept it with the food bag because we hang food at night and that stuff would get hung up too. Insulated bag for when I'm doing dehydrated foods and wanting to cook, in a sense, cook in there, I guess the right word would be, after you've already boiled your water. Spoon, measuring cup, and then believe it's either a Z-Pack or Garage Grown Gear, the hanging kit for hanging your bear bag. That goes in last in my backpack in the top section. And then I went ahead and pulled, this is the whole Nyloplum bag for the top section of my pack. Had my Z-Packs tent, it's a duplex, loved it. Plenty of room. Once you get used to it, it's not hard to set up, not hard to tear down. Great weight saver, and again, plenty of room inside. There were, people would sometimes complain about condensation on the inside of your tent. I did have that at times, and it would be a function of, if I camped right next to a water source where its air is really humid, then did the tent get really cold, and then water would condensate on the surface of the tent, both inside and out. Or it might just be a matter of I did not leave the flaps open enough, so I didn't get enough air moving in. It's basically condensation of stuff coming off of me. But wasn't really that much of a problem. It only happened a few times, and you just deal with it. You use that dry towel to wipe things off if you want in the morning before you pack your tent up and stuff. I did have it when it got really, really cold. I had, basically frost on the inside of the tent. I had to deal with that. That was a little more problematic, but still not a big deal. Then I use a second Nyloplum bag, so I have plenty of room to put stuff in and fold it over. This would be my clothes bag. Had a little knit cap. My sleeping bag, what I have in there is a Underground Quilt Company 20-degree quilt. Love it. From the standpoint, it has a foot box, but you can zip it open entirely, so it's just like a quilt. Or you can have the foot box. The foot box opens on the end, so you can open it up to let it flow more. It has straps, so you can kind of clip it down to your sleeping pad. It'll work good. The only thing I would say is that they say 20 degree, but if you read the fine print, it depends on how you sleep. And for me, at 20 degrees, that really didn't work very well. So I would have to layer up big time with clothing. If I go out again in really cold weather, I'm gonna have to think through my strategy on, do I bring my liner with this or not? So I have a down liner that I could add to the mix. And then I have a Gossamer Gear. This is the 1/8 inch foam pad. I use that during the summer. And then when we were in the winter, I kind of made a custom one, which was a 1/4 inch. If you saw some of the videos, that was strapped on the outside of my pack. When I use this, I can stuff it on the inside. That worked out nice. It helped protect it when we were in shelters, or add a little bit of layer on the ground. If I want to stretch out on it, I can do that. Had the Thermarest Neo Air. Love it. Worked out well. Only had one leak. It was kind of on a seam right near the valve. Patched it up, and so far it's holding pretty well. And again, the Nyloplum bag, all that was in. And that did a great job of keeping things dry, because your pack, again, it gets wet when it rains. No matter how you try, it's gonna get wet. You set it on the ground, water comes through. That protects the stuff on the inside, and hopefully you get a chance to dry your pack out, because it's just, when you get a wet pack, it gets a lot heavier. As far as clothes went, I had on compression shorts, and I had on a North Face wicking shirt that worked really well that I wore there at the end. I did the Injinji toe socks as my liners, and then I switched between sealskin and my wool socks for camping. Those Darn Toughs are just great. But these are my sealskins, waterproof socks. They worked out really nicely. Very comfortable, no problems. For camp, I had my REI convertible pants, so these are either shorts or pants. And if I needed to be a little bit warmer, this was an alternative for hiking in those if I so choose. But generally I got to the point where when it's warm, and even if it's raining, you're just gonna get wet no matter what. So I just tried to save those for the camp. That helped. If I could put on dry pants at night when it's a little bit cooler, and maybe when there's a lot of bugs around, that helped keep the bugs off. Pack your fears. Well, socks. So I would be wearing a pair of Injinjis, and then I'd have 2 extra, plus I'd have my sealskins, because I'd always wear these as my sleep socks at night in the summer. They were just so comfortable. And then the last day before we go into resupply and do laundry and stuff like that, I might use my sleep sock so I can have something dry. Smart Wool, long sleeve, it's a 150. I use this for multiple, I would sleep in it at night, and or if I needed layering during the day, I would use that as needed. You just kind of make decisions based on what the weather is and what your plan is for being in town again. Then I also had, for a backup either for sleeping or whatever, was another Smart Wool blend wicking shirt. This worked out really well. So I'd have the short sleeve I was wearing, Pack Your Fears backup, and then for warm and sleeping at night as necessary. And what else we got in here? Yes, compression shorts. So I would wear compression shorts, Pack Your Fears backup compression shorts, and then this would be generally my pillowcase. I had this underwear as pillowcase because this would get stuff full of leftover clothes or whatever stuff I need to put in there to give me enough of a pillow. I don't need much of a pillow when I'm sleeping. I mainly sleep on my stomach or my side. So if it's my side, this gets loaded up right under my side. If I'm sleeping on my stomach, I don't need much of a pillow at all. But then this would be the pillowcase. And it would also be my backup pair as needed, so it's multi-purpose. And then if I didn't need this cap, I could also pull that over the pillow as well. And the main thing for doing that is just, on a polyester surface, you want it to breathe a little bit. So that was my way of getting to where my face wasn't sweating out on the pillow. So that's kind of my summer stuff as it ended up at the end of the trip. And that was, again, about 15 pounds. And then once you start adding in food, some of the condiments and other things, sunblock and that other stuff, you can easily start getting your weight up. So if I'm doing 2 pounds a day and I got 5 days worth of food, so you add 10 pounds for that food, and then plus whatever water you're carrying, and then plus any other associated stuff that you add into the mix. So that's that. Now what I want to do is just show you what happened a little bit when I did the winter stuff. So on the winter stuff, this stuff pretty much stays as is, except I would probably, this underwear would come out, so we'll toss that over there. This would stay. This guy would come out, and then what we would do is, obviously, I would add a puffy into the mix, and this stayed with me all the way to Katahdin. So this was with me for basically 4 months, and this became a part of my system for layering too. When I got warm, you get to camp, you get into your dry clothes, then this will go on if it's cold, and then as needed, my rain shell from Montbell would go on top as well. So a lot of times that helps really keep in some warmth. Sometimes I would sleep in the puffy, but that was rare. It was only those times when it was getting down into the low 20s, and I was having to layer up to keep from freezing my butt off in my quilt. Also added into the mix a 250 merino wool, and initially on when it was coldest, I had 2 of these. I had one I could hike in, and then I had one I would wear at night, and then my 150 was kind of a layer that would get thrown in the mix either at night or in the day, or replace the other during the day, depending upon what the weather conditions are like. It's so diverse of conditions you get on the trail: wet, dry, cold, mild when it's in the winter. Also, Smart Wool long johns, and this was really camp only. So I put these on when I'm sleeping at night. I actually used these for a while when it got warmer too, because my pants might have been wet, and these were good to wear with shorts, and it would help keep me warm enough at night when things weren't too cold, and also it helped keep the bugs off me to a degree. Then also in the mix for camp pants, I had these fleece REI And when it was really cold, these coupled with the long johns, I could be really nice and toasty around camp, and then it would help layer me up in a sleeping bag. But you can see it's a lot of clothing that I was adding into the mix, and I would continue to rethink that as I went forward. Then I didn't have the wool cap. That was gone. I guess that's a polyester cap. I had a balaclava that I used when it was cold. And the thing I like about this one, I found it online, and I can't even remember where I bought it, but it's loose. I have another balaclava that fits kind of snug and tight, but it doesn't work as well if you want to roll it up on your head just to wear it as a cap. It would get too tight. This one was loose. So it fit loose. You could roll it up and stay just on top, it'd be off your neck. You could cinch it down to come close around your face. And I could use it, I would often wear this when I'm sleeping. When you sleep in this, this really helps the skin on your face breathe when it's against the pillow as well. So I actually found that I didn't even really need a pillowcase if I had this on, if I was wearing this. And if I wasn't wearing this, I slip it over the stuffed up stuff sack, and that became its own pillowcase. And that way it's also handy if I got cold. Go to bed, when you go to sleep at night, after about 3 or 4 hours, it's gotten a lot colder, and you generally will shift some of your layering anyhow in the middle of the night. As far as gloves went, on the cold weather, I had some heavy duty mitts, and these were the liners that went with the mitts. And I think I only wore them twice. So if I was to go again, I would not take those. I ditched them pretty early into the hike. I think it was about 6 weeks in. I sent them home. They were clunky and they weighed a lot, and I switched to just wearing these, and then I also had smart wool liners. And the nice thing is, if I was wearing these during the day and these got soaking wet and I wanted gloves at night, the smart wool liners work well. But at the end of the trip, up towards Katahdin, all I had left was these. I didn't have the smart wool liners anymore. I knew I could always put socks over my hands if I need to layer a little bit more. On the summer side, no gloves. It wasn't appropriate to bring them. And then, probably some of y'all are gonna laugh, these were my sleeping socks in the winter. These are extra heavy duty smart wool socks. They weigh a ton. They are so comfortable. And I just love them, and they kept my feet really warm. And I love wearing them around the house too in the winter. But what I would say is going to the down booties is the way to go. David used those, and I actually was trying to look for some of those partway through the trip and couldn't find them easily in places we stopped in town. But these, I like them, but for a long hike, again, when it's gonna be cold, gonna switch out of that. This is my Frog Togs. I didn't have these, like I mentioned before. I had the Montbell convertible zip-offs. I might do something like this in the future, just something cheap and easy, or maybe go to the Z-Packs or something like that, just to help keep getting the weight down. But I still use these around town in the rain. Something simple and easy like that is great. Something that can block the wind, keep the rain off you when it's required. The one thing a big takeaway for me on this through hike was that you get out there and you're hiking and you're getting after it and getting it done and going up and down those hills, you're gonna be wet no matter what. You know, you're just gonna be wet. And the harder you work, the more you sweat, and you're gonna be really wet. So this rain pants became more about thermal management, trying to make sure you didn't get too cold, to block off the wind and maybe block some of that water from washing all over your body. And with the Montbell tops, more so I was worried about my core getting too cold, even from the cold rain when it wasn't winter. But there got to be times where David and we didn't put any rain gear on at all. As long as we were warm enough, we didn't mind getting wet. But then as soon as the temperature started dropping, put your rain gear on over your wet stuff, just so you can stay warm. And then the last piece of my winter gear, the micro spikes. And these, of course, weigh a ton. I think these are like 11, 12 ounces, and these just slipped over our hiking shoes. David got a pair too, and we used these on our shakedown hike in December of last year, and we had to use them. We were caught in a lot of snow, and this really made the hiking much safer. We started out with these. I think I sent mine back after about 4 weeks because this was just a lot of weight. And you start looking at all these things that I've gone through that were related to cold weather camping. My base weight went from 15 to 20, 21 to try to make sure I had the things that I needed. And then, so if I'm at 21, I had 5 days food, that's 31. And if I'm carrying a liter of water, that's 33. 33 total. Now, given the weight of my pack and what it's rated at, that puts me right about at the limit of my equipment, which was a good thing. It kept me from carrying more stuff. So that's kind of it. That's my equipment breakdown for now. Stay tuned. I'd like you to see David's going to go through the same thing. You'll see we have a lot of shared experiences and things, and look forward to any feedback, and thanks for watching. And just when you thought I was done, I forgot one thing I wanted to mention. I started out the trip with this ultralight titanium cook kit, and this is basically 750 milliliter, somewhere in there, maybe 800. Great little cook kit that I used for quite a while. And then I switched to this. And the reason is, I took this because I thought I needed a bigger pot to cook some of my meals in than I was actually going to cook in the pot. And like if I was going to do 2 servings of ramen at the same time, or the big mashed potatoes, or the stuffing, stovetop stuffing and things. And what I found is that with the mashed potatoes and a lot of those things, we just boiled the water and that went in the big gallon freezer bag to cook it in there, stir everything up in there, and you didn't have a dirty pot. So it really didn't become very essential to have a pot this big for cooking in. At the time it became a problem is a lot of my ramen meals, they wouldn't go in here, so what I would do is I would do two boils for it. I'd do 1 boil of ramen and I'd eat it with all the stuff, and if I need to eat more, I'd load it up again and boil some more and eat it. And you look at the difference of these, the size is kind of the issue. This guy was kind of a pain in the butt to put anywhere in my pack. It didn't like going in the food bag, putting stuff around it. If I had to put it somewhere else in my pack, it was just kind of clunky, this size. This size was a lot easier to put in a variety of places. I could put it in the side pouch, I could put it in the webbing, I could put it in the food bag and other things, and it wouldn't give me a big bump in my pack somewhere that would be bumped against my back or doing something else. So that's why I switched. The weights are almost identical to these two, so it didn't save me on weight. It was more about space constraints. People have a lot of different solutions for that, and that's what I ended up doing, is changing out. I love this one, just didn't work out size-wise. Well, that was the last little piece, and hope you enjoyed watching. Thanks.